Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent
and Dr. Mark Costas.
Mark and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental 18 podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Mark and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
Two perspectives, one mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. Hello, Dental 18 listeners. This is Kiera Dent, and I am coming to you guys live with Summer Kassamel, and we are going to be hitting this as a quick 10-minute practical topic. We're just going to dive right into this because Summer is awesome. I'm doing great. You guys already know Summer. She is fantastic, but we've got some good ideas for you that we wanted to share today on how to get your team calibrated without sounding like robots. So Summer, should we just dive into that? Because I think that's a good topic just to lead us right into what we want to talk about.
Yes. Well, and I would say first things first, TCs are treatment coordinators, and they're the person who is going in and presenting that treatment plan to the patient so that they understand. And, right off the bat, you may have one, you may have like six or whatever, who knows. But oftentimes the dentist doesn't even know what's being said. And so I was just telling Kiera that, when I very first was getting started, I would literally creep around the side of a wall and really listen to whoever it was presenting the treatment plan to ensure, is that how I want, is that how I want it to sound? Are those the treatment options, the payment options that we even want to give? Because sometimes what I found is once they got in the room, weird stuff started coming out because they didn't feel very comfortable. And so they would sit with the patient and I've literally heard something like, hey, so you have that filling, do you want to schedule? And I was like, whoa.
Do you?
Well, and it was literally that fast. Or, hey, you have a filling on the lower right. It's going to cost this much. This is what your insurance pays. Do you want to schedule? And I was like, oh man, we're not even connecting with the person. And I really just think that treatment coordinators have a way bigger job in offices. And I always say, get beyond the money girl position and really become that advocate for that patient to make them healthy. And I tell them it's so important that your enthusiasm and passion for getting them healthy is what prevails. And if you walk in there, make sure you're in a good headspace to kind of sit with them and don't be above them, be looking at them in the eye and really be able to sit with them and say, hey, tell me what questions you may have about the treatment that the doctor discussed and, or the hygienist. And right there, by the way, is a lot of times we find a first fail point where we failed because the patient will be like, I have no idea. I don't even know what's going on. Well, perfect. That's kind of part of that whole game that we play of okay, that's right there. That's a red flag. But if you have a TC who understands what they're trying to do when they come in and really being able to connect with that patient, what I have found is it shows us so many red flags that we may have had preceding that, but then it also makes that patient feel so much more safe to discuss, I'm scared, I'm worried. Honestly, I don't know how to fit this into my budget. But if we never have that conversation, a lot of times either the patient's going to schedule and then they're going to end up canceling later on because they just scheduled to get the TC out of their face.
Right.
Or they're going to not schedule and give one of the classic, I'm going to talk to my husband or wife type thing, which sometimes they really do, or sometimes they really don't have their calendar. And that's for another day as to how do you follow up with those patients, because there should be something in place to, follow up.
Of course.
I think that, there's such a huge opportunity if we take more than 30 seconds to present a treatment plan. And I know a lot of times people are in a hurry and things like that, and we assume they want out of that room. But as you have taught me, we assume a lot of things about our patients
Correct.
that maybe aren't true. And so
we create a lot of solutions to problems that aren't even real. We just assume they're real.
That is honestly probably one of the biggest things you've taught me is like, don't go in taking your own problems and projecting them onto those patients. Really go in just wanting to be a healthcare provider and really wanting to go in and give your passion and enthusiasm for making somebody have a beautiful, healthy smile, make it noticeable, and then have the rest of your team constantly be holding up that same message. And that includes your TCs. And so if you can get a team of TCs that feels the same way, they don't have to sound like robots, but they do have to hit the same points.
Correct. And I love that you said you creep on them, because when I coach offices, I creep outside of every single room. So I'll creep where they're doing a TC. I'm standing in the background listening to how they're scheduling appointments. I'm listening to doctor exams. I'm listening to the hygienist tee up. I'm listening to the hygienist present fluoride, because so often I think that is a piece that's missed heavily, because doctors don't want to be micromanaging, or they're so busy and need to respond to these emails or finish their chart notes. But I always ask the question of, are you too busy to ensure your practice is running the way you want it to go?
Absolutely.
Just a question.
Yeah. Well, and emails can be answered a lot of times after hours, but only during work hours do you have the chance to hear those phone calls and hear those treatment plans. So,
and to hear them in real life, because you can role play like crazy. But
yes,
a lot of times I've even found myself where I think I said something and will play it back, and I didn't say that at all, but in my mind I thought I did, or I thought I was connecting with the patient. And it's much easier, doctors and office managers and department heads and any position in a practice, really, if you're needing to have that conversation to grow your team, to say, hey, so when we schedule, let's make sure we do these 3 points. Or when we're doing a treatment plan, like you said, Summer, we connect with the patient. Then we talk about the totals. Then we talk about insurance. And then or whatever your process is. Those steps, you have your flow charts created for each department, for each area. But it's much, much easier and much more powerful if you can hear them of exactly what they're saying and right after correct it. It's kind of like, Summer, when you learned to take x-rays, did you learn on film, like the dip film? You had to run through the
Yes,
process.
I did.
Me too.
I did.
Me too. And then when I went to the dental college, I taught radiology with sensors, and I found that I could teach radiology so much more efficiently and effectively with the sensors, because instantaneously they could see on their x-ray on the screen and the angulation of where they'd position the sensor and where they'd position the cone to make sure, like, hey, we cone cut here, and this is why. Do you see how we're not lined up? Look at where your positioning is, and look at what picture you just created. The learning curve was so much less than you and I when we were doing film, and I had to try and remember back to when I just placed that bite wing, where was my positioning? Why didn't I get open contacts? And I feel that's the same principle, like you were saying, of helping calibrate without having robots, by listening in and correcting right away. They just did the treatment plan. They just heard what they said. You can then correct, or even ask them, like, hey, did you connect with that patient? I totally did. Okay, tell me how you connected with them. I asked about how their day was. Yep, They said good, and then you moved on. Is that connecting? Could I say something different? Totally. Let's try this on the next one. I'm going to listen outside your room just to hear, because then there's the instantaneous feedback to help exponentially grow them, as opposed to just saying, like, let's role play. Good luck when you answer that phone. Why are we still not getting patients on the schedule? Well, there we have it right there.
Right. Well, and a lot of times I just, I'll be going someplace else, within the office to drop something off at a desk or whatever. And a lot of times that's even just when I'll do it, is I don't even give them any sort of foresight that I'm going to be listening, because I always joke that I'm always listening.
I love it.
but that way they're really true and natural to whatever they're doing. And, I just heard one a couple weeks ago, and I was like, hey, Julie, I didn't love that for the sake of this, and this. Tell me what you thought about it. And she's like, absolutely, I feel the same way. And here's the thing is, I will say, I've set up in my office, doctors, we are just as likely to get feedback as anyone else. Because as I say, like, I care more about the practice moving forward than I do about me being right. Because I think each one of us in this practice needs to feel safe with being able to give feedback that's going to give the patient the very best experience. Because really, ultimately, the patients are our bosses, really. Mm-hmm. And if they're having great experiences, they're telling their friends about it, then we've done something right. So when I say this, it's never one way. I mean, just literally this last week, Amy gave me some feedback on one of my Invisalign consults. And she was like, hey, I feel like if you would have said this, it may have landed better. And I was like, love it. I'm going to start using it. And so I think it really does have to go both ways. And I think, you can pop your head around a corner so often in the day, just within the course of the day, to be able to make sure, are they saying what you want? Are they providing the financial options that you want? Like you said, are they kind of hitting that flow chart? And is everybody who's doing it hitting it? We track, how much is presented and how much is accepted. And we know which TCs are the ones who can do the big cases, which are our TCs that don't feel quite as comfortable with those. And we try to let people go within their sweet spots. Because I know Becky's going to be able to sell a $10,000 case probably pretty easily. And some of the other ones may not. And so we track all of that. And I tell people we use those numbers just as a guide to figure out maybe who has the best verbiage. Because if we can pull the best verbiage out of every person in my office, holy smokes, right? You take all of that collective, great verbiage and put it amongst all the TCs. Golly, if that increases case acceptance by even 2%, that's a huge number over the course of the year.
It really is. So I love that. So we're going to wrap this up. We said 10 minutes. So I love the ideas, Summer, that you have of popping around the corners, listening into your team to ensure if you don't have a flow chart, maybe start there. Start with getting exactly what you're looking for in the presentation plan and have your team help grow that. Have a flow chart for new patient calls. Have a flow chart for how you schedule. Have a flow chart for hygiene. There's lots of different ways. Don't go crazy town and do it all at one time because that means you'll probably get nothing done. Just start with one. And then doctors, office managers, roam around the office and have your ears always on. Listen to what they're saying. Check in. I believe that is one of the most important jobs that a doctor and an office manager and department leads can be doing in their practice to ensure the calibration is there. Everyone has their own flair and style. We don't want robots, but we do want them following the same flow. There's a flow for a reason. Our patients, they love consistency. If there's consistency time and time and time again, that helps your team and that helps the patient experience overall. And that's the whole reason behind any of this. Consistency makes the experience a lot better. And then you're all able to be calibrated easier. And Summer, I just love, and I hope all of you resonated with her culture of we are in the interest of making the patient experience the best it can be. So let's all give feedback to each other and be open to it, even doctors. That way we can have the best experience possible.
Absolutely. Yes.
I love it. Summer, thank you as always for joining me. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's always fun, Kiera. It really is fun, isn't it?
It's so much fun. You guys, this is our real life. We just sit and chat and we turn it into podcasts. So that's all it is. So Dental A Team listeners, thank you for joining Summer and myself today. We will catch you next time on the Dental A Team podcast. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening and we'll talk to you next time.